And for example, when someone enters his credit card into the ATM to get money, you know that each credit card has a 4-digit passcode. Okay, so I can use shoulder suffering, standing back and looking on the keyboard. Okay, this guy enters, for example, 1234 as its um, passcode. And after that, if I theft that credit card, I can use it because I know the passcode of that card. I find it according to the shoulder suffering. And sometimes, if someone passes some information, they can control the cyber. They can enter into the cyberspace of the organizations. They can control it. Maybe it depends on the skill of hackers. In the hackers defense, uh, sometimes some people try to hack and control some information and systems. They just try to theft information or something like that. So we need some control protections about the information in the organization. Look at this one here. This is an example of shoulder suffering. This one this person uses this ATM, and someone else stay back and look on that ATM. Look on the keyboard here to find the passcode. Or this is another type of shoulder suffering here. Watching from the other side of window. Okay. Or maybe someone uses for example IP camera or something like that. There are different types of shoulder sufferings methods. And here, younger hackers against professional hackers. Younger hackers mostly use well-known tools to hack and crack systems, but they are they are not well trained, so their attack may be harmful. But a professional hacker is well trained, and maybe he attacked to the computer systems, but just he control the systems without any or thefting information. Okay, without any reaction, without any um, harmful action. Okay. Another. Okay. So why? Because expert hackers use their own devices. They develop different software scripts and use different programs to exploit the breach, and they have many skills. They just do it most of time. Do is most of time they hacks the systems just for fun or just for sharing it with other people's and say, okay, I'm a powerful hacker or something like that. Okay, but unskilled hackers, they are not well trained. They just most of the time they use written software to exploit the systems, and uh, most of the time because they are not well trained. Okay, most of the time they are not. Most of the time they don't fully understand what they do when they hack the systems. Okay. Uh, so we should be afraid from those unskilled or young hackers because they don't know what they do. They don't exactly know what they do. Okay. Uh, when we talk about hackers, there are some other terms here. For example, someone talk about crackers. A cracker is a person who removes the software protection mechanisms. For example, in Windows, when you try to install a new version of Windows, you need a license. You need a Windows code, special Windows code, uh, and you have to pay for that. But a cracker can remove that code, that mechanism to protect the Windows, and or they can share some keys, some Windows keys, and I can use them. So cracker is a person who removes those software protection mechanisms. Also, we have a phreaker. Phreaker is a hacker which is who is use public telephone networks to for hacking. Wait a minute, please. Uh, Sometimes people to try to extraction the information. It means that attackers steal the information in computer systems. A hacker or a cracker, a hacker uh, attack to a computer, get its control, and then they steal the information. And after that, they say, okay, you must pay money to me, otherwise I will disclose it. I will disclose this information. Okay, you have to pay money. Uh, um, this type of attacks mostly is because of money, to get money. Uh, it's a type of we called it in Farsi. We call it bajafzar in Farsi, or in English. English, we call it ransomware. Ransomware is something like this, stealing information. Mostly, they encrypt the information over in the hardware and say, okay, you have 24 hours time to pay, for example, 1 Bitcoin uh, to this address. Otherwise, I will delete everything. Or otherwise, I will delete the key of that encrypted information. So you have to pay money, or otherwise you will lose everything. Mostly, this type of attack is happened over credit card number and something like that. The other type of threat is sabotage or vandalism. An attacker attacks to the websites of organization. You know that the website of an organization is the face of that organization. So attackers try to deface that website. They try to erode consumer confidence, or attack to the business of that organization, dropping the sales, or something like that. Okay. This type of attacks rises today, and every day you can find different types of cyber activities operation, such as this one here. And now we have a new term in the cyberspace. We call it cyber terrorism. Cyber terrorism means that attackers attack to some basic services. For example, they attack to water supply systems, or something, or electrical supply systems, or something like that. You can find different examples in this area in cyber terrorism. This is an example, a website example, who wants to fill information about those cyber activities, to record those cyber activities. Okay. Theft is another threat in information security. Theft means that someone illegally take the physical control of our property, or physical or electronic or intellectual property, or everything. Okay, someone taking that property from me. It's a theft. Mostly we talked about physical theft. Someone steal, for example, my car. It's a theft. In information security, someone theft my license. Someone theft my intellectual property. When we talked about physical theft, it's easy to control. In physical theft, or physical steal, okay? It's easy to control. For example, I can use a key to lock the doors. It's the easiest way to ban a robber. But when we talk about electronic formats, in electronic thefts, it's not easy to control the systems. It's not easy to control electrical thefts, because we are facing a complex problem. Especially, firstly, we have to find some evidence about that electrical theft. which is not easy. And most of the time, you cannot readily apprehend it. Okay, but it's another type of threats. Another one is software attacks. Okay, maybe someone writes and design or implement a malware or malicious software to damage, to destroy, to does attack different systems, especially different types of worms, different types of viruses, different types of Trojan horse, logical bombs, backdoors, DOS attack, or something like that. Okay, these are different types of software attacks. Something like this. This is an example of Trojan horse attack. Okay. One of the other types of threats is force of nature. We talked about it. Why? Because force of nature is stand among the most dangerous threats in the world. And as I said, you know, for example, when a software attack happens, mostly we lost some software information or some electronic formats of information, mostly. But in force of natures, maybe we lost some systems, some informations, but also maybe we lost some individual lives. We lost some personnel. For example, in an earthquake, maybe I lost my IT manager. Maybe I lost my maybe my programmer dies because of an earthquake, because in a flood or something like that. Okay, and because of this, we say that it's stand among the most dangerous threats. The organization must implement controls to limit the damages of those forces in the nature. You know, I cannot control, for example, a flood. I cannot control an earthquake. But I can implement some controls to limit the damages of an earthquake. I can use some controls to limit the damages of a flood, of a fire. Okay? And what is important is that after that disaster, my business must continue its productivity, must continue its services. So I need two different plans. Plan number one, what should I do what should I do to control and limit the damages of that disaster? And plan number two, what should I do after that disaster to continue the business of the company or continue the business of the organization? There are two different plans, and they are very important. We have another plan too. Okay, we talk about them in the future. Another threat is threats against the quality of service. It means that we have some products or some services, but their performance is not as good as we expect. Their services are not delivered as expected. Okay. What is the problem? I don't know. They depends on different aspects. They depends on many interdependent support systems. Maybe, for example, right now we have a class, and maybe our class became interrupted. Why? Because of power outage, power irregulation, because of problems in the communication systems, problems with internet services. I don't know. Okay, but those problems, each of those problems, can affect on my system, can affect on my service, can affect the availability of this service, can affect the availability of the information in my organization. So quality of service threats are important for us, especially internet service issues. What will happen if an ISP fails to provide desired services? An ISP fails to provide uh, information for me, to provide service for me. Okay. For example, an ISP hosts my website, and now that ISP faces with some problems. I don't know what's those problems. Okay. But I know that if I lost my website, I lost my business. I lost some parts of my business. I lost some customers in my business. So that ISP, which I used as a host, okay, that ISP is responsible about its internet services, especially about about the hardware, a website operating system, and something like that. He's responsible for that. Okay. Sometimes, as a computer engineer, we think that okay, the only thing that I should think about that is communication services or software services. When I'm talking about the organization, okay, I should prepare a good internet link and good servers and software services or something like that. That is the whole thing that I need. Okay? As a computer engineer, something like this are in mind, but they are not the only the only services that I should expect about them. For example, what will happen in the university, for example? What will happen if telephone service of the university became lost? Okay, stopped. What about the water? What about the wastewater? What about trash pickup? I should be care about them. For example, what about power irregulation? It's very common, and we know that in power excess, power shortage, power loss, uh, most of organizations, especially universities, training centers, most of companies, they will lose their productivity. And organization must prepare some inadequate uh, conditions about the power. Okay, they should prepare some different control strategies to manage their power quality. Okay, they need it. For example, when we try to design big server farms, okay, big server storage or something like that, we need to receive the electrical power from at least two different places, from two different networks. Why? Because if I lost one of those networks, the other network can provide enough electricity for me. It's one of the key elements for me to design big server farms. Hardware failure or errors. We know that it occurs rarely, but we know that each equipment in the organization may face with it. Those hardware failures may impact my organization, especially sometimes uh, some there are some elements in my organization, especially for such as a core switch. If they fails or if they face it with a harder failure, they can stop servicing in my organization, or they can uh, makes a poor service in my organization. Okay, so it depends. Those harder failures or errors may strongly affect on my services. Maybe some failures, for example, in some terminals, maybe they have limited effects on my uh, service. It depends. But we know that those hardware failures and errors would affect on my service. Some of them are more important than the others. But finally, they affect on my service in the organization. Uh, in the same manner, we talked about software failures or errors. Uh, we call it software bugs. Those software bugs may reveal some new faults, and hacker can use those, can exploit those faults and bugs to take the control of my systems. For example, especially when we talk about websites, we need to document those bugs when we face with this type of um, failures. We have to document those bugs, software failures, and even hardware failures, okay, and errors. And the last one, the last threat category of threat is technology obsolescence. It means that I'm using an infrastructure, tools, a software, but the technology or the sections or the divisions used in that tool is outdated. So that's unreliable, an untrustworthy system. Why? Because if it faces with an error, I cannot find supports for that system to replace, for example, a section of uh, making those failure fixed. Okay, so as an IT manager or as a people who works in IT department, we have to plan and having some strategies to prevent using those obsolete technologies. IT plays a great role. Maybe you hear something about asset management. It's something about managing assets in an organization. The asset management software is a big software uh, which is related to the ages and problems about each part in the university, each tools, each uh, material, hardware, software, everything. So to face with technological uh, obsolescence problems, the IT department plays a great role. Let me talk about some types of attacks because most of the time attacks are stand among the most dangerous threats in software systems, in IT systems. When we talk about attacks, it means that we are talking about an action that exploits vulnerabilities in a controlled system. Vulnerability means exploiting vulnerability means that finding some weakness in the system. The attackers try to find those weaknesses and use those weaknesses to control the system. We call this as an attack. This attack may be harmful. Why? Because they maybe its damage make some damages. It's damage on my organization information. Okay, maybe. Here you can find some of different attacks. For example, IP scan, web browsing attacks, viruses, unprotected shares, mass mails, um, threatening SNMP protocol or something like that. When we talk about attacks, there are different types of attacks. Let me talk about some of them. For example, some of attacks are happening because of malicious codes, such as virus, worm, Trojan horse, uh, web scripts, or something like that. The attacker use those uh, codes to destroy, for example, my information, to get access to my system, to steal my information. Okay, malicious codes are stand among the most dangerous attacks. Hoax. Hoax means that um, I'm adding a fake virus to a real virus. So the system think the system is busy because of that fake virus, that hoax virus, and my real virus can do its job. Okay. Another attack is using backdoor. Most of the time, softwares have a backdoor. Most of times. Why? Because the company who developed that software wants to prepare some remote access to help people. Okay, so they use some backdoors. They implement as use some backdoors for remote support. But what will happen if an attacker used backdoor to take control of a system? You know, that backdoor, mostly that backdoor prepare a full access to everything in the system. Password crack, it's clear. Someone attempt to um, find the password, find my password, reverse calculating, and find the password. Okay, brute force attack. Someone uh, try to the whole possible combinations of the password, crack that to find my password. Mm, the brute force attack always can respond, okay, but it needs time. Most of the time, it is too many times. Maybe uh, months, maybe years, maybe decades, maybe centuries. I don't know. But I know that finally it can find the password. Okay, uh, and because of this limitation, a good attacker firstly use dictionary attacks. Dictionary attacks is a kind of attack that in that the attacker firstly try to uh, use some well-known passwords. For example, uh, 123, 123456789, 123456789 or 0123456789, 1234566. Most of uh, simple employees, not trained employees, use these simple passwords. Or if I know the phone number of users, if I know place of birth, date of birth, um, national code, um, something like this. Name of children, for example, name of wife, name of a tool or an animal that the employee loves. For example, name of the horse or something like that. Name of a dog, name of a cat. I don't know. Okay, name of an airplane or something like that. Name of the loves. If we know those information, we can test those information instead of testing the whole combination of every possible uh, passwords. Just I prepare a limited list as a dictionary, and just I test those items in that limited uh, list. This is the dictionary attack. Denial of service attack. In this attack, uh, you know that in this attack, the attacker sends large number of packets and information requests in the server to the target, and the target would be overflow, and because of that, it couldn't respond to the request. So it crashes or it couldn't uh, perform ordinary. It couldn't perform well, um, same as the previous. Okay. Uh, an improved version of DOS is distributed DOS. In distributed DOS, instead of one or two or a few number of attackers, in distributed DOS hundreds or maybe thousands of attackers at the same time try to attack to a system simultaneously. You are starting to attack at the same time, right at the same time to a specific target. And unfortunately, this type of attack, distributed DOS attack, is successful forever. Always, this type of attack is successful, and um, the target system would crash. It depends. It depends on the number of attackers. If you manage a DDoS attack with more than, for example, uh, thousands of computers, thousands of attackers, I can promise you that your attack would be success. But if you use just a few number of attackers, no. A firewall can detect your attack, and it can refuse to, it can drop the packets belongs to those attacks. It will block your to block the IP addresses of those attackers. But in DDoS attack, no. Always it would be successful. Always. Okay. This is denial of service attack. Attacker uses some just a few systems to attack to a specific target. IP spoofing. In IP spoofing, someone try to use a trusted IP address and send its packet with these trusted IP addresses. It means that someone use some techniques to gain unauthorized access. Okay, with using a trusted IP address in the system. In the system. Okay. Another attack is man in the middle attack. In the man in the middle attack, the attacker stands in the middle of a communication, so it can monitor traffic networks, and maybe it could he or she can modify those traffics, maybe inserting some traffics, maybe dropping some traffics. It can do everything because he or she stands in the middle of communication in the network. So we call it man in the middle. The Trudy sits between Bob and Alice. Okay, spam. Uh, an unsolicited commercial email. Most of times, uh, we talk about we call it as an attack, but uh, most of times it's because it's sent for commercial purpose. But spam emails can prepare some platforms for another attacks. This is IP spoofing here. This is the original IP address here in this packet. The attacker used that IP address in its modified packet. This is man in the middle, Bob and Alice, and Trudy here. Trudy sits between Bob and Alice. When you are using a VPN or when you are using proxy in your system, you accept to use man in the middle attack. That is interesting. When you set a proxy in your computer, you accept that man in the middle attack. Why? Because this proxy can hear everything, the whole traffic, can manage the whole traffic between you and the other side. So VPN and proxy are two types of legal man in the middle attack. That is interesting. Mail bombing. It's such as it's similar to DOS attack, but in this attack we use emails instead of packets. Sniffers. Sniffers means a tool, a program, or a device to monitor packets who are traveled across the network, over the network, such as Wireshark. We used Wireshark sniffer last term in advanced computer network course. It monitored those travel data over the network. Okay, and as we talked about Wireshark, and a sniffer can be used for legal purpose or for illegal purpose, for stealing information from the network, over the network. Okay? Social engineering. It's an interesting type of attacks. In social engineering, people try to cheat each other. The attacker tries to cheat people to reveal his or her confidential information. For example, the attacker calls someone, okay, I'm from ISPX, your internet line has some problems, please give me your username and password in your internet line for checking. Okay? It's a social engineering attack. I said I'm a professional in ISPX. So you think I'm right. So most of the time people think I'm right and they gives me the request information. They gives me their username and password of the internet. Oh, I check it. Maybe it's. I think it's correct. I should search for something else. Oh, I'm sorry to bother you. I'm sorry. Goodbye. Goodbye. Bye bye. That's enough. That's everything. I get the confidential information of the other side just using a phone call, nothing else. Using social engineering, we can access to different types of confidential or valuable information. So it's very important for us to plan for some awareness programs for the employee. Okay, if someone says that I'm, for example, from the university, give me your student number and your passcode over Golestan. You must not reveal your information. Nobody must request for those information. Nobody. So don't reveal those information. It needs some awareness programs for this. Okay, we will talk about all of this in the future. Okay, um, and look at this one. Kevin Mitnick said said this. People are the weakest link. People are the weakest link. You can have the best technology, firewalls, intrusion detection systems, biometric devices, and so on. And somebody can call an unsuspected employee. That's all. That's all. She wrote. Just an unsuspected employee. They get everything. They got everything. They got everything. Oh man, oh God, I'm using the best ever technology in my network. How they attack, how they crack my system. I'm using the best firewall, I'm using the best IDS, honeypot, biometrics devices, everything. How they can access to my system? That's easy. Instead of working on those technologies, they just work on your employees. You can find different types of attacks based on this. You know, just read the history. For example, in Iraq, 4 decades ago, Saddam tried to build a nuclear planet in Iraq. They talked with France and made an agreement with the France to uh, build two nuclear reactors in Iraq, post-Iraq power planet. And Israel used this strategy. They send and they send a spy woman. That spy woman cheats an engineer, and that was the end of everything. Using that engineer, that Iraqi engineer, in the first attack, one of the nuclear reactors uh, became became destroyed in the France. The next one repaired, and Israel bombed it in Iraq. So destroyed. Israel destroyed the Osirak power plant in Iraq after that. It's an example. You can find several other examples uh, in this way. So it doesn't never mind that you are using the best technology. Someone can access to your network just by working on your employees. Even in Iran, during the last years, the Israel attacks and or steal information related to the uh, nuclear program of Iran. Several times attacks to nuclear program in Iran, just using the Iranian employees. So technology is good. You know, technology is good. We have to use the best technology, but it's not enough. Why? Because people are the weakest link. People are the weakest link. One of the one another type of attack is phishing attacks. In phishing attacks, someone tries to gain personal information or financial information from individuals, from different individuals. You know, in phishing, for example, I send you a link. Okay, please follow this link and send this information for me. You are following that link, and you think, for example, okay, this, uh, for example, um, the homepage of Kholistan of the university, and but it's not. It's a fake web page similar to the real Kholistan's website. I prepared that fake web page, and you are. I invite you to go to that fake web page and enters your information in that fake web page. When you enter your information, I will steal your information, your username and password. That's easy. Just I need to create that fake web page, nothing else. And after stealing your information, I can redirect your request to the real web page. So you think something were wrong in the Golistan, in the real Golistan website. Okay, you think so, but in reality, I steal your information. I rob your information. You know, that's easy, and it's a powerful attack to find those information, different information. Farming attacks means that we can redirect the legitimate web traffics uh, to obtain private information. Timing attacks, it's a relatively new one. Uh, we are trying to uh, explore the web browser's cache using malicious cookies to find good information in your uh, web browser cache, the cache of your web browser. You know that if when you visit a website, that website can put a cookie in your system, in the cache of your browser. So in timing bomb, the attackers try to review those cookies uh, to find useful information from their point of view. Okay. What can I do for this? I can develop a secure software. We talked about SDLC in the last chapter, you know, uh, but in that uh, methodology, SDLC methodology, we never talk about security as an objective. If we are looking for that, for example, we need to use SA or software assurance approach with SDLC. So we call it SASCLC. Uh, what about the history of this? For example, the history of this efforts uh, goes back to the maybe 15 years ago, when U.S. Department of Defense and Department of Homeland Security uh, present uh, some publication in this area. For example, secure software assurance, common body knowledge. Uh, but okay, here, let me check something. Okay, no. If it goes back to this SA, maybe we should talk about Linux history, um, Unix history, uh, to prepare a secure platform. But today's there are several other recommendations, several other parties who are preparing different publications in the security area, especially to prepare a secure software, such as SWA CBK. There are some. They prepare some recommendation, a strong recommendation to guide the developer to prepare secure applications, something like that. Okay, but what we can say is that if you are looking to prepare and design a secure software, you can follow these principles here. For example, keep your design simple and small, or uh, give access only by permissions, not by exclusions, or every access to every object must checked for authority. Is it true or not? Or something like that. Okay. For example, uh, just utilize a few users to just uh, mm, what they need. Just prepare necessary privilege, nothing more than this. Or use two key protection mechanism for unlock. Use key and passwords for positions. Uh, Use simple human interfaces, not complicated ones. Use the minimum common mechanism for multiple users, uh, or something like that. Here in this slide, in slide 52, you can find some problems area in software development. For example, maybe my buffers overruns, maybe someone injects some commands in my applications, cross-site scripting, um, failure to handle errors is very important. You must prepare at least some mechanisms to handle different errors. Failure to protect network traffic, failure to store and protect data securely, format string problems, It means that you are using strings with incorrect formats, neglecting changes in control, improving file access, and something like that. You know, this this list here is related to the main problem areas. What we can do, we should be clear about this. For example, uh, if we are looking for confidentiality, integrity, and something like that, we can use SSL or TLS. Okay, uh, we should be clear about network leak, about bugs, about race condition, about SQL injection, and there are several other problems. Weak passwords, address resolutions in the network, and something like that. Uh, you know, everything in the network, everything can be used as a platform for attack. The attacker can use everything in the network, in your system. So when we talk about the development of a software, we should check everything one by one from different aspects. Okay, from this, for example, I prepare an input box in a Windows application in a web page. Okay, can an attacker attack to my application using this text box? Yes. How? Maybe attacker enters an SQL command. We call it SQL injection. Instead of entering an information, for example, username or password, the attacker can enter a SQL injection command, an SQL command, inject a new SQL command. Okay, this text box is related to the information of a phone number, for example. Okay, so phone number has consists of, for example, 11 elements. So the only things that it should be entered to this item is 0 to 9, nothing else. With a length of, for example, 11 digits, nothing else. For example, for SQL injection, I can say, okay, never accept percent notation. Never accept it. Why? Because in SQL injection, the attacker use percent notation, this notation. For example, if I write this percent 20, what does it mean? It means space, a space, a single character of a space. Percent 20. In hexadecimal format, percent 20 means 32 in octet format. If you look on the ASCII table, you can find that 32 is related to the space. It's related to the space. So percent 20 means space. So I say, okay, if in this box you cannot enter every character, your enter character, for example, I want to enter, I ask to enter names and family. So the only accepted characters are the alphabetic characters, nothing else, even no digit. only A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. Only these characters are acceptable, nothing else. Using this limitation, I can make a good control against SQL injection attacks. Okay. For example, what about the passwords? You know, if you have a Gmail, if you have a Google account, you can say that when you enter your password, it says that okay, your password is weak, your password is good, your password is strong. Google never accept weak passwords. Why? Because the system based on weak passwords are good options for attacks. The attackers like those systems with weak passwords. So we have to be clear about weak passwords. When for the first time we prepare a password, the first time is not important, but for the first time that the user enters into the system, we should ask the user, okay, change your password. And at that time, we can say, okay, your password is not strong. Use a password with combinations of, for example, digits, letters, and different notations, different sign notations with minimum length of 8 characters or something like that. We force the user to change its password, his password, to a stronger one. Or we can ask the user, okay, every 15 days you have to change your password. These options are useful. Or when we talk about key exchange, we talk about network addresses, race condition, and everything. Handling the problems, for example. If you are a program, you know, you hear something about handling the programs. You have to be clear about the handling. There are some exception sections in different procedures. When you are writing different functions and procedures, there are some parts. Okay, you can use try, catch, error. In the try catch, error strategy, you say, okay, try this code, but if you receive an error, go to the catch subsection. In the catch subsection, we're going to handle the errors. For example, preparing a message box. Okay, this system has this problem. We have to handle those errors. Why? Because those if I don't handle those errors, maybe my system hangs, my system stops after those errors. So I have to handle it. I handle the errors to overcome those problems, those issues. Okay. So today we learn that why we need security. We said that we need security, we need information security to help the business of the organization, to protect the data, protect operations, protect systems, protect everything in the organization. And we have to use safeguard technologies for this because there are several types of threats and attacks in IT world, in cyber world. So we need cyber defender systems and cyber defender strategies, rules, uh, policies, and everything, training, education, or something like that, to protect the data and services in the organization, to protect the functionality of the information. Okay, this is the last slide of this chapter. Is there any question? Any question? Okay, before finishing this uh, session, next 2 weeks, next 2 weeks, next week and next other weeks, okay, are holidays in Iran because of the New Year of Iranian calendar. Next week we have the New Year. We will start the New Year of the Iranian calendar. So for 2 weeks, the university is uh, and classes are closed for 2 weeks are closed, and we have not class. After 2 weeks, the third week, we will have a quiz from chapter 1. Okay, 3 weeks later, we will have quiz from chapter 1. Okay, so again, for 2 weeks the university is closed. In the third week we will start our course, and after that, in the third week and the following weeks, each week we will have a quiz from one chapter, one by one, along the term toward the end of the term. Okay. Any question? You're welcome. I wish the best for you. Have a good day and bye bye.